Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 10 popular foods that are different in the US, and I don't know if this will go with like food packaging because I'm seeing this one here. And this is something that I kind of mentioned the other day about how certain packaging for foods will be a bit different even though it's the exact same thing. And I was asking about if there are Mars bars in the US and stuff like that, or if it's actually going to go into like differences into what the foods are like. So maybe there's different ingredients obviously in not food, it's a drink, but like Coca-Cola or Pepsi and all that kind of stuff. But we're going to check this out and see. And yeah, I'm just fascinated to see what possibilities and what differences there are, because maybe there are foods that I've seen mentioned in previous videos and they're the same as what we have here, but it's a different packaging, or again it's a different style of food, or what, or maybe it's the same packaging but it's a different food. I'm not sure, but we're going to check this out and yeah, hopefully going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions, but let's just check this out.
Well, greetings, food lovers. There's nothing better than some pigs in a blanket on game day, chips on the side, and a big apple.
A pigs and blankets, man. That's like for Christmas. That is just the cherry on top of the cake. You know, you got the Christmas dinner, which is perfection, but then you got the pigs and blankets, which is just like you don't need it. It's not like the food's not going to be good without it, but you have it, and it just adds that extra bit of perfection.
Pie for dessert, eh? Now, whether you're American or not, could decide how you just imagined all those fun foods I mentioned. And wait, there's more. Check out some other popular dishes in the US that look different around the world. 1. Pancakes.
Yep.
Let's say you're an American.
Fried chicken. I went to an American restaurant yesterday, and they had like all typical American foods. They had corn dogs and stuff. I didn't try the corn dogs. I wanted to, but I had so many other things. I thought, if I get this, I'm just gonna feel so ill after. But I've never been to like an American style diner, and so yeah, that place was like sort of lunch, dinner foods. But I want to go somewhere where they have pancakes and fried chicken, because I think that's just gonna be. I think I'd love it. I don't know. It's a weird like. It depends what mood I'm in, because I love fried chicken. Obviously, I love pancakes. And I feel like the combination, sometimes I'd love it, sometimes I'd hate it, but there's definitely a time I've got to try it, man.
American tourist in Russia. You wake up and you're craving a big stack of fluffy pancakes smothered in butter and syrup. Ooh, that hits the spot. You ask for a menu in English, scan it for your morning treasure, and boom, there it is, pancakes. I'll have that, please. The waiter brings your breakfast out. You look down, and you're stunned to see what looks like wimpy, paper-thin French crepes on your plate. Hey man, what gives? Well, pancakes date back to ancient Greece and Rome. Before they were officially dubbed pancakes in America, they used to be called Indian cakes. Crepes, on the other hand, have nothing to do with pancakes in terms of origin, since they date back to the 13th century France. Kinda gives you the crepes, huh?
Didn't really talk about the differences, but one difference is, I don't know if you have them like this in the US at all, but I usually have pancakes, right? So you'd have the pancake like this, just one individual pancake, usually be a bit bigger, and it's not as sweet in the pancake. I feel like the US pancakes are like, the sweetness is also in the pancakes, whereas the pancakes that I've had, the pancakes aren't supposed to be sweet, or they're not anywhere near as sweet. But then you'd have the pancake, you'd spread like chocolate spread, or you get some fruit, get some honey, and then you'd like put it all on like like it's a piece of bread, and then you'd fold it into like a little cylinder. So you roll it, and then it would all just be like a sort of sandwich, but like all in one. Is that a thing in the US where people do that as well? Do people only really have pancakes like this, where it's like one on top of the other, and you just sort of dash the syrup on top and whatever? Because I've never really seen pancakes like that in these sorts of videos to do with the US where they fold them. It's always like this. That's how I see American pancakes. Whereas in the UK, I don't really see people eating pancakes like this. But again, I think the pancakes here are a lot sweeter.
The 13th century France. Kinda gives you the crepes, huh? Number 2, toast. Now speaking of breakfast, when it comes to toast, my, do the French have an imagination. American toast is just a toasted piece of bread. Of course, you gotta throw some butter and jelly on that bad boy.
Same
but
here.
If you've ever had French toast, well, you know.
Oh, French toast, when you put it with egg and stuff.
It's a sweet delight of white bread soaked in a mixture of beaten eggs, milk, sugar, vanilla, and cinnamon. I guess that's why they don't need those big, thick pancakes in France. And I imagine they don't call it French toast over there. And if you keep goofing this up, then I imagine you're toast. 3. Pigs in a blanket. All right, it's football Sunday, and you've rolled some mini hot dogs up in dough and threw them in the oven. If the game you're watching includes big dudes in helmets and pads throwing an almond-shaped ball around, and you refer to your game day snack as pigs in a blanket, you must be American. If you're in the UK, that dish would involve wrapping hot dogs in bacon, and that football you're watching would be what we call soccer in the US.
People don't eat pigs in blankets for sports. It's typically for Christmas dinner.
Now, here's where it gets trippy. The equivalent of American pigs in a blanket is called a sausage roll in the UK.
What?
Yankees call the British variety bacon-wrapped hot dogs. Boy, that just sucks all the fun right out of it, doesn't it?
Bacon. British people call it bacon wrapped hot dogs. What?
Blanket is
Oh, these 10. Too much sound from outside. Which we call what bacon wrapped hot dogs?
Now, here's where it gets trippy. The equivalent of American pigs in a blanket is called a sausage roll in the UK.
Okay, so you call what we have sausage rolls pigs in blankets. Okay, that makes sense.
Yankees call the British variety bacon-wrapped hot dogs.
Oh,
Boy,
Americans
that
call it
just sucks all the fun right out of it, doesn't it?
What the?
Number 4. Bacon. Since we've touched on the topic of bacon, let's get that straight too. Bacon in the U.S. comes from the pig's belly and is served in thin, crispy strips coated with fat. In the UK, bacon is from the pig's back, and it's less fatty, thicker, chewy, and served in round slices. It's kind of like what Americans refer to as Canadian bacon, or maybe a combination of the US and Canadian types. So, if you're from the UK and you're having a hard time finding some proper bacon in the US, maybe ask for the Canadian variety, eh? Number 5.
I do want to try American bacon one time because I feel like I'd like it more.
Pudding.
Pudding.
Now, my fellow Americans will imagine a creamy custard dessert when they think of pudding. If you were to travel to the UK, you'd get something way different. The British definition of pudding is anything that's been boiled in something else. For example, in the UK and Ireland, they have the infamous black pudding that's served for breakfast.
No, thank you, man.
It's also called, wait for it, blood sausage. Really? Well, that just ends it for me right there. They also have sweet puddings, but that would be the cake-like dish we call flan in the US. Flan in the UK, however, is what Americans know as fruit pie. How confusing. Well,
I've never heard of flan in my life.
as Shakespeare might have said, a pie by any other name would taste as sweet, except for that blood sausage thing. Number 6. Eggs. Okay.
Is this going to be how they make, like in the shops, how there's more chemicals in the US one or in the UK? Because the eggs in the UK don't have to be put in the fridge, but in the US they have to be, and it's to do with the chemicals or something.
Eggs are eggs no matter where you go in the world. I'll take mine scrambled, please. But the thing is, stores in Europe don't keep them refrigerated like they do in the US. America does it for safety reasons. The Department of Agriculture determined that the most effective way to fight salmonella is by refrigerating eggs. But that doesn't mean European countries don't take their own safety precautions to fight bacterial food poisoning. In some parts of Europe, they leave the original coating on the eggs. There's an original coating? And that coating protects them from contamination. In other parts, they vaccinate hens to keep the eggs disease-free. Number 7. Breadsticks. I'm sure you know we have the
Breadsticks.
Italians to thank for this tasty Mediterranean treat. However, when it comes to the original breadsticks, also known as grissini, the food migration game didn't go as planned. You see, when we ask for breadsticks in an American restaurant,
They look good though. They look better than breadsticks, man. That looks tasty.
we get soft pieces of doughy bread and garlic that we can dip in sauce. But if you were having lunch in an Italian restaurant and asked for breadsticks, you'd actually get the original version of grissini, crispy baked breadsticks that can accompany your salad or be crunched on as a snack on its own. Number 8. Ketchup.
Ketchup. What the hell is going to be different than ketchup?
Now ketchup is another one of those culinary items that got lost in translation. In America, you know that familiar red paste made from tomato, vinegar, sugar, and all the accompanying spices.
I feel like if you go to any country, ketchup, you ask for ketchup, you're going to get this type of thing, this sort of sweet tomato sauce.
However, if you go to Australia and ask for ketchup on your burger, the waiter might give you a funny look and say, "You mean tomato sauce?" This goes back 80 years ago when ketchup hadn't made its way to Australia yet, and they used to serve tomato sauce as a condiment instead. Now, even though ketchup has made its way to Australia, it hasn't changed in terms of language. And while we're here, don't even get me started on that whole ketchup versus catsup deal.
Catsup?
9. Chips.
Okay.
One of the most traditional dishes in the UK is fish and chips. But if you're an American and you didn't know better, you'd imagine someone eating fish and a handful of Lay's or Doritos. But what they call chips are what Americans know as French fries.
But the thing is, the chips that we're on, like with fish and chips, you don't have these types of fries. Like you would get they're like fat chips. They're a lot bigger. They're not like skinny because French fries are a lot crispier, and I guess it's just less potato, and it's like I feel like they're more satisfying to eat. And I feel like these are more like more fast foody because they're probably quicker to cook. But fish and chips, they're thick, chunky chips, so they are a bit different. Because I mean, do you call? I guess you could even call chunky chips in the US French fries as well, right? Because there's a like you sort of differentiate in the UK. The small thin ones are fries, so I would call these ones fries, but the big thick ones I call chips.
Nice. On the flip side, in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, what we call chips, the round things sold in half-empty bags, they call crisps.
Oh, in South Africa? And Australia? What?
The French part of the American naming.
Wait, really? But I know there's a lot of influence, but it's weird because Australia and South Africa, they sort of have a mixture of British words and American English words. It's so fascinating. They're like a mixture of the two languages, or to say two languages, and New Zealand as well. Like the two, like American English and British or English or whatever.
Call crisps. As for the French part of the American naming, that goes way back to the 1800s or even earlier, when potatoes, not necessarily the sticks we know today, were fried, quote, in the French manner, end quote. French fried back then was pretty much what we call deep fried today. Number 10. Cookies. The American understanding of cookie comes from the Dutch word koetje, which means small cake.
Damn.
And when you think about it, that's
Bro, these remind me of the Subway cookies, man. Oh my god.
pretty much what cookies are. Only maybe they're a little crunchier. But in most English-speaking countries, except for Canada, cookies are called biscuits. In fact, they only use the term cookies to describe the chocolate chip ones in particular.
It's the big ones. The big ones are the cookies, right? The ones we just saw, the ones that I said about Subway. These ones that you can see here on there. They're the cookie ones. Because they're bigger, they got chocolate chunks or whatever chunks, they'll be cookies. But the small ones, biscuits.
As for those fluffy little rolls Americans know as biscuits, those are called scones elsewhere. Now here's my question. What do they call the sweet biscuit hybrid we know as scones in America? Number 11. Jelly. On a related point, as an American, I smother my biscuits, not cookies or scones, in butter and jelly. If you're in the UK,
But not that's like, you have different jelly, right? Jelly's like jam, but you call jam jelly on peanut butter and jelly. But that is a different style because I don't know, it's confusing.
you're probably imagining me hopelessly trying to spread some Jell-O on my bread. Because for you, jelly is my Jell-O and my jelly is your jam.
My jelly is your jam. Jelly is your jello. Wait, what?
Because for you, jelly is my Jell-O
Oh, so jello is jelly. What?
and my jelly is your jam.
So do people say jam in the US at all? If it's relating to like this type of thing, obviously jam probably mean another word, but in this context.
Ow, my brain. Of course, we have jam in the US,
Oh,
but it usually has chunks of fruit in it, unlike smooth, creamy jelly.
okay.
So travelers, beware. This kind of mix-up could end up putting you in a jam, which in this context means a tough spot. Oh, my head is spinning. Number 12. Pie.
Pie.
Now, back to desserts. I could go on and on about pie. Pumpkin, apple, blueberry, cherry. Anyway, pies in some parts of the world aren't the sweet, fruity, round pastries we know and love in the U.S. In Greece, for example, pies are savory, and the dough isn't as fluffy. They can be made with cheese, spinach, mushrooms, and even some meat. Those kinds are also popular in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Ghana, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe, to name a few.
What a fascinating mixture of countries.
Number 13. Milky Way Bars.
So this is what I was talking about, Milky Way Bars. Milky Way Bars is a branded chocolate, right? In the UK. Are they in the US or is it under a different name?
Alright, I know your stomach is growling up a storm by now. So here's our final example of a familiar food that might throw you a surprise if you eat it abroad. If you love American Milky Ways, wait until you try the European version. It's also made of chocolate and nougat, of course, but it doesn't have that layer of caramel in it.
Wait, there's caramel in the US one?
I imagine Milky Way bars in Europe taste pretty similar to the Three Musketeer bars we have in the US.
Why have they changed it? Is there one in the UK that's more similar? I'm trying to think. Mars bars, probably. Yeah, I guess Mars. We have Mars bars, which is kind of similar to this. Well, no, Mars bars is just this, isn't it? Oh, I'm confused.
Bars in Europe taste pretty similar to the Three Musketeer bars we have in the US. And if you're curious, it got the name Milky Way because it can float in a glass of milk. Really? Yeah, go try it. I'll wait. No. All right, Brightsiders.
Well, damn. The more you know. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. A pudding in the UK is usually a sweet dessert. We don't call it flan, but tart, and includes all desserts. We do have black pudding and steak pudding, etc. Very old traditional food. Yeah, I don't like those foods. But hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. And yeah, if you want more of this, let me know in the comments. And until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.